I'm 16, and I've made my first $1 million. If you believe the statistics, the chance of becoming a millionaire before adulthood is only 1 in a million. This means that teenagers who reach such a financial peak are truly rare exceptions. I never thought I'd be part of that statistic. I'm Mark, I'm 16, and I live on the outskirts of a small town called Bloomingdale, Ohio. Our house is old, the roof often leaks, and in winter, cold wind blows through the gaps in the windows. My mom, Anna, works 3 jobs, at a cafe, a gas station, and a local laundromat, so we can make ends meet. She's always tired, always busy, and although she never says it outright, I can see how hard it is for her to get up in the morning for yet another shift. I've been fascinated by computers since I was a kid. I remember when I was 11, I took apart my first computer, a hand-me-down machine gifted by neighbors who were moving. While other kids played video games, I was learning to code. My mom says I have a natural talent, but in reality, it was just an escape. Programming became my way to hide from a reality where we lived on the edge of poverty, where I was ashamed of my tattered jacket and old sneakers. Every day, I dreamed about becoming a famous programmer someday, inventing something big that would change the world. But honestly, those were just childish dreams that helped me get through tough times. Because in reality, every day I came home, sat at the computer, and was once again reminded that we didn't even have enough money for a new mouse when the old one broke. Lately, I've been spending more and more time on the computer, writing code. I was working on a project that started as just an idea in my head. I wanted to create an app that could help people find great deals online, track discounts, and save money. It was my little dream, to make life a bit easier for people like me and my mom. One evening, after yet another sleepless night at the computer, I figured out a way to optimize the search algorithm. It was one of those moments when everything clicks into place. My code started working better, faster, and that's when I realized this wasn't just a project anymore. Reddit. Users' comments. User 12,345. This story really reminds me of my childhood. My parents also worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table. Well done, Mark. You've already achieved more than many adults. Keep it up. CodeGeek84. Mark, you're amazing. I'm a programmer myself, and I know how hard it is to find motivation when everything around you is falling apart. Your example is inspiring. Don't give up. Hope for better. This is touching. I also grew up in a poor family, and I know what it's like to be ashamed of an old jacket. Hang in there, Mark. I believe you can achieve your dreams and change your life, and your mom is a true hero. TechDreamer7. This story reminded me why I started programming. I want to create something that helps people. Mark, your app idea sounds awesome. I'm sure you'll create something big. Good luck, huh? Coffee_and_code. I never thought a teenager could have such an impact on me. Mark, you give hope to everyone who's in a tough situation. I hope you find your way to that million. Realizing that my app idea had real potential ignited a desire in me to work even harder. I remember that morning, March 17, 2024, after a sleepless night at the computer, I gathered all my notes, codes, and thoughts into one pile and decided it was time to act. I wanted to create an app that would help people find the best discounts on groceries and everyday items. This app had to be accessible and useful to everyone, especially to families like ours. But it quickly became clear I wouldn't be able to handle it alone. I needed someone who shared my passion and was ready to work for free, as I had no money to pay. Tony was the only person I could trust with my idea. We had been friends since childhood. He was my neighbor and best friend. Tony was the typical geek, skinny with big glasses that always slid down his nose. He was just as fascinated by computers as I was, and had always supported me in all my endeavors. When I shared my idea with him, his eyes lit up. Mark, "This is brilliant," he exclaimed. "We can create something truly big." That evening, we sat down together at my old computer and started working, but things turned out to be much harder than we had imagined. The first problem arose almost immediately. Our computers were too old and couldn't handle large amounts of data. We tried to find workarounds, but every attempt ended with the system freezing. We worked in a small room where my old bed stood in the corner, and there was barely enough space on the table for 2 laptops. I remember one night when the program crashed again, and I almost broke down in tears. Tony tried to cheer me up. "Mark, we'll figure something out. Don't give up." But deep down, I felt like I had no strength left. The next day, as I sat at my desk, reviewing the lines of code for the umpteenth time, my mom came in. She worked double shifts at a gas station and only came home late at night, but she always found time to stop by my room and ask how things were going. "Mark, you haven't slept yet?" she asked, noticing the dark circles under my eyes. I silently nodded and turned back to the screen. Mom sat down at the edge of my bed. "You know I support you in everything, but I think you're working too much. You need to rest." I saw care and concern in her eyes. She worried about me, and it was felt in every word she spoke. I felt guilty for causing her more trouble, but I couldn't step back. I knew this project was our only chance to change our lives. Week after week, Tony and I worked on the app. We didn't have money for new equipment or even for a subscription to professional development tools. We searched for free options, found old computers at sales and tried to repair them. It wasn't easy, but we didn't give up. One evening, when we once again faced a code optimization issue, I realized we needed help. The next day, I went to my high school programming teacher, Mr. James. He was a young teacher, just 35 years old, and he was always fascinated by how kids could change the world with technology. I told him about our idea, the problems we encountered, and asked for advice. He listened attentively and then said, "Mark, this is a very ambitious project, but I can see you're serious. Let me help you. We'll meet after school, and I'll see what we can do." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the right path. Mr. James became our mentor. Every day after school, we met in the computer lab and worked on the code. He taught us new optimization methods, showed us how to properly work with databases, and introduced us to services that provide free servers for startups. With his help, we made significant progress. Our app began to run more smoothly, and crashes became rare. But that didn't mean all problems disappeared. In early April, we decided to release the first version of the app for a limited number of users. We invited our friends, neighbors, and acquaintances to test it. It was a day filled with excitement and fear. We had worked on this app for almost 2 months without breaks. Every line of code was carefully thought out and tested dozens of times. We knew this was just a beta version, but we were still afraid something would go wrong. And indeed, the first day of testing was a disaster. The app froze, data wouldn't load, and for some users, the program didn't start at all. Tony and I sat in my room, reviewing error reports, and it felt like the ground was slipping from under our feet. I saw the disappointment on Tony's face and felt that we wouldn't be able to fix everything. It was as if everything we had worked for, everything we had fought for, was falling apart. But Mr. James remained calm. He said, "It's okay, guys. This is part of the development process. The important thing is you found the issues. Now we know what needs to be fixed." For the next few weeks, we worked day and night, fixing bugs and improving the app. I don't remember the last time I had a proper night's sleep. My mom was increasingly worried about me, seeing how exhausted I was. One evening, she said, "Mark, I know this is important to you, but you have to think about your health too. Promise me you'll rest more." I nodded, even though I knew I couldn't keep that promise. Not now. Not when we were so close to seeing the results of our work. The end of April became a turning point for us. We released an updated version of the app that worked much better. User feedback was positive, and more people began downloading our app. We finally saw that our efforts weren't in vain. It was like a ray of light in the darkness. We hadn't made any money yet, but we could see that our idea had the potential to succeed. That gave us the strength to keep going. Reddit user comments. Dev_girl 1995. This story is so realistic. I also started my project without any resources. Mark, keep fighting, even when it seems like everything is going wrong. You've already achieved more than many could at your age. Mom_of_3. As a mom, I understand your mother's concern, Mark. But I can also see how talented and persistent you are. I hope everything works out for you, and that you find balance between work and rest. Your mom should be proud of you. Coder4. Life. Very inspiring. I had a similar experience when I started my startup. The most important thing is not to fear mistakes and to keep moving forward. Remember, every great success begins with challenges. Tech_Maven23. Honestly, as an entrepreneur myself, Mark's story is exactly what's needed to inspire the younger generation. Struggles and setbacks are part of the road to success. Mark, you're doing amazing work. Hopeful_student. Your story has given me faith that I can make a difference too. Thank you, Mark. You're truly a great role model. I'll never forget the moment our app went viral. It was mid-May 2024. We had about a week of normal sleep and relative calm after releasing the updated version. Tony and I celebrated with pizza and watching old movies in my room. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in ages. But the next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was James. Mark, you need to go online. Your app, it's on the front page of the Play Store, and everyone on Twitter is talking about it. I immediately turned on my computer and opened the Play Store. Sure enough, our app, which we named Price Sniper, was featured on the front page under popular new releases. Over 100,000 downloads in the last 24 hours. I couldn't believe my eyes. The reviews were mostly positive. People were saying the app helped them save money and find deals faster than any other service. It was incredible. Within the next 2 weeks, the number of downloads surpassed 1 million. Tony and I were receiving hundreds of emails from users and even potential investors. Some large companies were offering partnerships. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. Just a month ago, we were sitting in my small room, struggling to get the app not to crash. And now, we were successful. By the end of May, our revenue from ads and paid subscriptions had reached $1 million. I remember sitting at my desk, staring at the bank account, not believing my eyes. The amount was unbelievable. It was more than my mom could earn in her entire life. I thought about how we could move to a new house, pay off my mom's medical bills, and maybe even afford a vacation. However, the rise of our success brought unexpected challenges. One day, at the end of June, when I came home after a meeting with Tony, I saw a man at the doorstep. He looked familiar, though I hadn't seen him in years. It was my Uncle Peter, my mom's older brother. Peter had left our lives 10 years ago after some family argument. He hadn't been around or shown any interest in us all these years. And now, he was standing in front of our house, wearing an expensive suit and smiling. "Mark, what a joy to see you," he exclaimed, reaching out for a handshake. I awkwardly shook his hand, not knowing what to say. He explained that he had heard about my success and decided to reconnect with the family. "We're family, Mark. I want to help you make this business even bigger. I have experience, connections. Together, we can achieve so much more." I invited him into the house, where we talked for an hour. My mom came home from work and was shocked to see Peter. Her face turned pale, but she didn't say a word. After he left, we sat in silence for a long time. I could see my mom was upset, and I didn't know what to do. On one hand, he was offering help, but on the other, his sudden appearance after all these years made me suspicious. Why had he shown up now, when we had started making money? The next day, I told Tony everything. We were sitting on a bench in the park, eating ice cream, and I saw him look at me thoughtfully. "Mark, I think you should be careful. Maybe he does want to help, but you can't trust him just because he's family." Those words made me think. I started spending more time with Peter, listening to his advice. He really knew how to run a business, but his ambitions went beyond mine. He wanted to expand the app to other countries, bring in investors, and even sell user data to big corporations. I began to feel pressured. More and more, it seemed like I was losing control of my project. In early July, we had a major conflict. Peter insisted we make a deal with a big company, offering us a huge amount of money for exclusive access to our app. I wanted to stay independent and keep our original idea intact, a safe and accessible service for everyone. Tony and I had worked on this to help people, not just for profit. After that conflict, I started thinking more and more about quitting. So many problems and so much pressure that I couldn't even feel the joy of success. My mom could see I was suffering, but didn't know what to say. I shut down, avoiding both Peter and Tony. The only place I could find peace was at the school, where James and I worked on new updates for the app. It was a tough period, but I knew I had to find the strength to make a decision. Was I ready to risk everything to keep control of my project? Should I trust Peter and follow his advice, even if it went against my beliefs? These questions haunted me, and I knew the answer would change my life forever. Reddit users' comments. Big Dreamer. 22. Mark, this is a tough decision, but remember that you're the one who created this project. Don't let others take control of it. Trust your instincts. Family. First. 98. It seems to me that your Uncle Peter only came back for the money.